Tamara, thank you so much for, coming into Body and Soul HQ today.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your new book. Now, before we start, I have to ask you, as I ask everyone on this podcast, how do you stay extra healthy-ish?
Great question. Honestly, I feel like my life changed when I developed a really good morning routine. So I used to race out the door for work and I would just arrive at my desk so stressed and anxious and my heart was racing and I hated it. And I decided that's it. I'm going to get up early and I'm going to have a slow morning routine and just ease into my day. So that really helped a lot. I get up and I do some breathing exercises. I read, I journal and I stretch. And I just feel like it sets me up for the whole day. I feel like I've already accomplished so much in my day. And so that's really helped me feel better about myself and about my day and approach my day differently. I also try my best to eat healthy. So I usually approach my food decisions by asking myself, what is the most nourishing thing for my body? Rather than focusing on calories or healthy fats and bad fats and all the rest of the things we have to think about. I just ask myself, what's the most nourishing choice for my body? And that usually helps me stay on track.
Just with your morning routine, how long do you spend on that? Is that a, an hour or what's, how's, and have you tweaked it over the time you've been doing it?
Yeah, I've given myself an hour because especially when I'm journaling, sometimes things come up and I don't want to have to be rushed to have to process them or not have enough time to unpack things. So I give myself an hour just so that I have that time and that pace to move slowly, because I've spent so much of my life racing through my mornings that I've given myself a full hour to just do what I need to do and slowly ease into my day.
It does make a real difference, isn't it? When you're already moving from that place of, your nervous system firing and then going into your day without actually just stopping. And
that's right.
I mean, I've got kids crawling all over me in the mornings, but I literally have 10 breaths. And even if I don't do my 10 breaths, I find my days just, all a bit out of whack.
Yeah. It makes such a difference. Just taking a moment just to breathe and you feel ready, you feel set.
Do you doodle as part of this, or is that
Sometimes
work life?
I do, but doodling also comes in later in the day. So during work meetings, I doodle, or when I'm listening to audiobooks or podcasts, I implement doodling in other areas of my life.
Okay, before we get deeper into doodling, explain to us, what is doodling?
Look, in the simplest terms, it's just making a mark on a paper, whether it's a shape or a pattern. It's just a simple marking on a paper. It doesn't require any artistic skill or technique. It's not rigid. It's free-flowing. It comes out of you naturally. So that's my definition of doodling.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I didn't probably appreciate doodling as an art form until I started researching you and your beautiful drawings and I just thought doodling was a bit of something I did on the back of my page during a meeting.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of misconception around doodling and it seems like such a time-wasting activity. But, I mean, any marking on a paper can be considered an art form, and there are beautiful patterns you can create by using one or two shapes. So it can be a really beautiful artwork, and the benefits of it, I think, are so interesting.
Well, now, for those who didn't listen to Healthy-ish, talk us through some of these.
Yeah, so there's some really interesting research around how doodling and art in general helps with our mental health and our brain health in general. So my favorites is that it lowers the cortisol levels in our brain, which is the hormone related to stress, and it increases our dopamine and activates the reward centers in our brain. So it gives you that natural mood boost just by creating a little drawing. Other research suggests it improves your memory, improves concentration, problem-solving skills, increases your creativity and your focus. It helps you self-regulate. It helps you focus on your breathing. It slows down your heart rate. It helps you be more present in the moment. So there's a lot of interesting research around just simple drawings.
And it's, when you were talking then, I was thinking it's just so much easier to do than picking up your phone and scrolling through social media.
Yeah, it's a good way to detox or detach a little bit from technology if you feel like you need a break. I think that everyone should have access to paper and pen, you'd hope. So if you do feel like you need a break from your screen, it is a great way to just put it all away and just, pick up a pen and a paper and just draw whatever comes out.
So when you sit down and draw, what sort of things do you draw? I mean, if listeners are thinking, oh, I'm going to try this doodling, as we were talking about, we somehow go to flowers first and foremost.
Yes.
Give us some other ideas about things that we can doodle.
Yeah, so I think I would suggest to people to just draw what naturally comes out. And I know that can be really difficult, and you look at a blank page and it can be very intimidating. So as we said, I naturally gravitate towards flowers. I don't know why. I just always doodle flowers and leaves and nature related things. But whatever you feel in that moment, sometimes it's swirls, sometimes it's triangles, sometimes it's just therapeutic to scribble. And it's okay to do that. It's not just for children. I think we need to reconnect a little bit with our childlike or our inner child, and just allow yourself to just create a scribble and just flow with it. Don't overthink it. I think that's what I'd suggest to people.
How did you start doodling? How did you get into this?
Yeah. Look, I can't pinpoint a particular point in my life. I've always loved to draw. So for as long as when I was old enough to hold a pencil, I was drawing something, and all through high school and university, there were doodles all over my workbooks. So it's always just been something that I've loved to do. It's always been part of my life.
What did you start drawing? Were you more an artist when you started, and how did that develop into doodling becoming your thing? When did you realize you were good at doodling?
Yeah. What did I start to do? I draw things that inspire me. I draw things that I love. I don't have a particular theme. I tend to just draw whatever inspires me. So that could be flowers. It could be, I don't know, a beautiful vase, a bowl of fruit, whatever it is. So I do like to experiment with a range of different styles. I think I didn't realize I was good at doodling until maybe I started posting tutorials online, and the feedback was so positive that I thought maybe, I'm good at teaching this, and this is going to help people. So that was a bit of an aha moment.
Yeah, actually, let's talk a bit about that, because obviously you are massive on TikTok and Instagram. How has that shaped your doodling?
Yeah.
Or talk us about maybe when you started and how that your doodling has evolved.
So this all started in lockdown. I was alone with my thoughts for far too long, as all of us were, and feeling enormous amounts of anxiety and stress. And so I did what I always do. I started drawing and doodling and just trying to get my mind off whatever was happening at the time. And I had recently downloaded TikTok, and I thought, why not? I'll just post a tutorial. I've been loving the tutorials that I was seeing online. And I thought, what have I got to lose? I'll just post it. If it helps someone, it helps someone. If no one sees it, that doesn't matter either. So I posted a tutorial, and the feedback was so positive and so overwhelming that I started to realize people could really benefit from this, and I could really help people by just teaching them these simple steps. So it just evolved from there. Over the years, I've continued to create tutorials, making it really relevant to emotions that we all feel and all come across, like the Monday blues or anxiety or overthinking, and just helping educate people a little bit about the mental health benefits of drawing and how it can actually really be a great tool to help you self-regulate.
What are some of the tutorials that have flown, that have gone really well? Because I think that's really interesting, posting about the everyday emotions that we all feel. I mean, that's the key, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. I think it makes people feel really seen when you identify an emotion that they're going through, and showing them that you're going through it as well. They're not alone. So things that have really taken off or received a lot of engagement were anything around overthinking, anything around anxiety, or anything around just low mood in general. I think people just resonated with it, and it was general enough that it could meet people wherever they were at, and it gave them a tool. It was a tool to help them step out of that mental cycle or that negative thought cycle that they were in.
Let's talk about that overthinking one. What sort of doodle was it that you did for that? Or what do you do when you're in that overthinking cycle?
Yeah, look, I've done a few related to overthinking. I think the one that took off was leaves and flowers and vines. It was kind of very free-flowing design that just allowed people to create marks on a paper and then draw little flowers and leaves all over the place. So it allowed them to go with it however they liked. Don't overthink it. Just draw some lines, draw some flowers wherever, draw some little petals wherever. So I think that was the first overthinking one that I did that really resonated with people.
Did you find that the emotional response of people moved through the different period, like in lockdown, out of lockdown?
Yeah. I think so. In lockdown, obviously, we were all experiencing heightened emotions. And so the feedback was very positive and people were very engaged. But even out of lockdown, we're still processing so much. Everyday life is stressful. So it's not like anxiety stopped once we were all out of lockdown. And it's not like people all of a sudden were just over all their stress and over all their issues. So there's still
in fact, I think it's got worse. The stats back that up.
So there was still definitely a need for it. It just shifted that now we're out in the world. How do we process everything that's going on now that we're out, now that we have to navigate life in a new way? So it shifted in a sense, and it didn't in a sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I hope so.
Now, you're a teacher.
Yep.
How do you use doodling with your kids? I mean, I would love my kids to have a teacher that doodles.
Yeah. Look, kids are just so naturally creative and inquisitive, and they love art and they're curious. So it's really easy to incorporate art in the classroom. I personally use it with my students to help them self-regulate. So when they come back from recess and lunch and they're all red in the face and sweaty and breathing heavily and their hearts are racing and their bodies are just jittery, I put on some calming music and I tell them, get some paper and some pencils and you have 10 minutes to just draw whatever you like. And almost instantly you notice that their breathing starts to slow and they stop sweating so profusely and their faces return to a normal color, their bodies are still. And after those 10 minutes, they're really ready to transition back into the classroom, back into a learning space. So that's helped me the most. That's how I use doodling most, to help them self-regulate in a different way.
What sort of doodles do you see?
They often will draw what's happened on the playground. So they'll draw me pictures of, the soccer game they just played, or some girls in the playground skipping. So it's usually real life examples of what's just gone on, which is nice. I feel like they're processing what just went on outside through an image. So I really love seeing all the different drawings that they come up with.
I think there's so much merit in that we as adults can do that in the workplace. We've just come out of a really heavy meeting, or we've just had a run-in with a work colleague. Go to your desk, get out a piece of paper, doodle for 10 minutes.
That's it. It's so simple, so easy, and you'll be amazed at how different you feel after it.
How do you doodle in your non-work life?
In my non-work life?
Yes. Is TikTok work?
Well, it can feel like work sometimes. In my non-work life, I tend to just doodle as I'm listening to audiobooks. I find it really helpful to focus. So if there's anything I really need to listen to, I will do a drawing at the same time. I can't give you specifics because they're all different all the time, but again, it's usually a swirl or a flower or something nature related. That's always my go-to.
Now, I'm sure some listeners are thinking, I'm so crap at art. I can't draw. Maybe I did when I was sitting in kindergarten after being in the playground for 20 minutes. Where do we start if we're not very good at art?
Yeah, look, it always makes me so sad to hear people say that they're not good at art or they can't draw or they're not creative. I wholeheartedly believe everyone and anyone can learn to draw. So my advice would be, firstly, be kind to yourself and remember that everyone started somewhere. We all started at the bottom. We all started at the beginning. Start with what is natural and easy for you to draw. I know it might sound silly, but if you are comfortable drawing triangles, draw triangles all over the page. Draw them different sizes. Draw them in a pattern. Don't overthink it. Just start with what you're confident drawing. And then as you feel ready, add a new challenge, add another shape, add another element, and slowly over time, you'll really see your skills change and develop. So don't try and reach, step 10. Start at step 1 and slowly build your way up.
And I think adding colour, I think some of your doodles are beautiful because you've got black and white ones, but then adding a bit of colour in there. I mean, who knew you could do this much with doodling?
Yeah.
Now, you've got a new book out. Have you got some favourite doodles from your book?
My favorite ones are ones that involve one continuous line. I think there are nice little challenges in there. I also love the ones that involve a pattern. So there's a few in there that involve a few shapes, and it's up to you to create some sort of pattern. So they're my favorite ones, I think, in there.
I like that. Tamara, thank you for coming on today and inspiring us all to doodle.
Thank you so much for having me.